So here's my first question to you as you're jumping in. Again, still love to hear where you're coming in from. But I have a question for you even now. Have you ever had a business partner? If you've had a business partner, type in yes. Have you ever had a business partner? Type in yes. Tell me if you've ever had a business partner. Or are you looking for a business partner or considering a business partner? Tell me that, because this whole thing around business partnerships is a very interesting subject. I was having a conversation with a mentee, somebody I was guiding today, and this conversation came up because very often people are extraordinarily nervous. Yes, you have, Anne. Good. People are often very nervous about having business partners, and somewhat appropriately so, particularly if we've had a bad one in the past. So, have you had a business partner? Type in, tell me if you've had a business partner, or if you're considering having one, tell me that. And, you know, what I want to know is, what was your experience like having a business partner? Because when you think about having business partners, there's a very good chance that you had a business partner, or you went into business with, there's a very good chance that you had a business partner was somebody who you liked, got along with, had some kind of relationship with. It's very unusual to go into business with somebody that you don't know in some way, shape, or form, right? You usually have some kind of relationship with them, and that's what brought on the partnership. So, how did it go from being somebody you liked and got along with to being a shit show, which is often what it happens to be? How did that possibly happen? Were you so misguided? Did they so misrepresent themselves? Were you so blind? These are all questions you can ask yourself right after, when you have a bad partnership. Often you say, like, you know, what was wrong with me? Why didn't I see that? Or they so misrepresented themselves. I thought that they were this and they were actually that, and I got to discover that. And you know, but is that really the truth of what actually happens? And I want to put it to you that it's actually not usually what happens. It's not usually that you missed things that were there. You may have missed things that weren't there, and I'll explain that in a minute. And it's not often that they, what should we say, maliciously misrepresented themselves. That's not usually the case either. The problem is that they were nice. That's the real challenge. That's the real challenge with business partners, is very often they are nice. Now, so you're thinking, okay, well, again, so you're suggesting that I find assholes for business partners? No, that's not what I'm suggesting even for a moment. What I am suggesting is this. We have spoke about this on this broadcast before, and by the way, thanks for everybody else jumping in. Chris, good to see you. Jeremy, nice to see you. Jeremy, you had a partner. She was great. That's fabulous. Was strong. Fabulous. Nellie said, can't hear you. What about now? Try it now. So, oh, that's a bit dark, isn't it? Let's go over it. Okay, so, looking at this question of how to find a good business partner. How do you know what a good business partner is? So I want to tell you why nice people make terrible business partners, and for that matter, terrible leaders. We've talked about on some of these other broadcasts about the greatest fear people have. And I spoke about, of course, the sort of socially accepted answer to the thing that people are most scared of is public speaking. And I said in a previous broadcast that that's actually not true. People are not that afraid of public speaking. Of course they are afraid, but I can often get them past that. They can often get past the fear of public speaking. So there is a greater fear, and that greater fear is the fear of conflict. The fear of conflict. So people are very often quite terrified of conflict. It really gets in their way. Now, you will notice that nice people, N-I-C-E, neurotic, insecure, controlling emotions, nice people very often fear conflict. They will do everything they possibly can to not be in conflict with you. They don't want to do that. So if you're going to have a business partnership with somebody you can't have conflict, that means you also can't have resolution. What you have is a sycophantic relationship where somebody is the yes person and the other person ends up taking control. It's no longer a partnership. Well, it is, but not one of equals. And it becomes very dysfunctional. So what I want to bring up to you here is the deep importance of embracing healthy conflict. I know I've said it before, but I want to tell you why it's important now. The deep importance of embracing healthy conflict is this. I was dealing with a young man, Mark, next gen leader, family business, you know, a lot of money to be handled, a lot of responsibility to be handled, and clearly knew he was not ready for what it would take to really step into his role as the next gen leader. We talked for a while, and what was clear to me was that he had some very, very serious issues that needed to be dealt with different members of his family. This is a family business. This has got to be dealt with. But he talked about how his father had never dealt with those kinds of things, and he certainly was never going to be comfortable with that. And I really challenged him to step into it, and that he was never going to be the kind of leader that he needed to be until he was willing to step up and have the conflict that he needed to have, particularly with his dad, but with other family members. And we went backwards and forwards on this. I coached him through the kinds of courageous conversations he could have. I coached him through how he could bring it up, how he could walk through it. You know, really, we have this whole thing around courageous conversations, that those are the ones that really empower you and strengthen you and help you become a better leader. And so we really gave him the right strategies to have these phenomenal courageous conversations that would transform his relationship with his dad and potentially transform the business. We're about 3 times into this, and of course, he's not having these conversations. And now, as a sidebar, I'm working on another set of things with him, which is something called his personal maxims. Now, you might think of them as values, but it's actually much deeper than values. Your personal maxims are what drives you at the core and what matters most to you. So we're working on these, and we're not getting there. We keep hitting the wall with these things, and as we're hitting the wall with these things, he's also not having the conversations that he needs to have with his dad and with other family members. And it becomes evident to me that he doesn't actually know what his core maxims are. And I've offered to help with that and get into that and really dig into the depth of that. And then suddenly he drops off. He wants to back away. He doesn't want to have those conversations. And of course he makes up his excuses. It's about money. It's about time. It's about distance. It's about the fact that I'm not in front of him eyeball to eyeball, that I'm on Skype with him. Many of my clients, 2/3 of my clients on Skype, they're international clients. It's not a problem. Clearly that's not the issue whatsoever. All the stuff is just excuses. There's tons of excuses, and he's got lots of them, and he's going to stick to his excuses. It's all bullshit, and it's actually a way to avoid having these conversations. He's avoiding the conflict. Now here's the thing. If you avoid the conflict, you never get to really find out what matters to you. Conflict is incredibly powerful and important because it actually teaches you over time what is most important to you. How are you going to know your core values? How are you going to know your core maxims if you haven't stood up to fight for them? As we mature, as we develop, as we go through our lives, there are things that are going to come up and we start to conflict over them, of course. And as we get a little bit older, you know, sometimes we get a little older and we look at them and go, what the hell why was I fighting for that? That's such horseshit. It really doesn't matter to me. Because you've matured and you've developed and you can see that you often fought for things that didn't matter. But you know what? That is the nice person's argument. The nice person's argument is there's no need for me to have conflict. I mean, let's face it, after all, you know, it doesn't really matter. It does. It matters immensely. Because it is through that conflict, through finding out what is that agitates you, what aggravates you, that it helps you to understand where you need to say no, where you need to stand up, where you need to take a stand on things, what really matters to you. That's what really, how you genuinely find out the core values, the maxims of your life. And without that conflict, you never do that. So the problem with that is, as I just talked to you about this young man who was this family member, next gen leader, another one of my clients was considering going into business with him. And I said, this is going to be a terrible business partner for you. And my other client said, why? Steve said, why? Why would this person be a bad business partner? I said, because this person will agree with everything you say because they can't do conflict, and then carry a shitload of resentment at the conversation, into the conversations, into the business partnership, and you're never going to have a healthy relationship with this person. Great partnerships embrace conflict, whether those are romantic partnerships or whether those are business partnerships. Embrace the conflict, because I need to know what is worth fighting for. Conflict is a healthy part of every great relationship. It helps me to understand my partner better, my business partners, my life partner. It helps me to understand them. It helps me to see what is worth fighting for them. What is that they're willing to stand up for. And if they don't know what's worth fighting for, it's a terrible business partnership, because it's not equal. It's all going to be the other person's way. They're just going to lie down and feel like the victim, play the victim. There's going to be no equality in the relationship. So it's vital to embrace conflict in order to discover your true core maxims, what it is that matters to you at the core. And if you go into business and you create a business partner who is nice, who will back away from the conflict, you will never know what really matters to them, and you will never really feel like they have your back, because you can see that they can't actually take a stand. I know that if somebody comes at me to attack me, and my wife's there, right or wrong, she will have my back, because she knows my core values, she knows my core maxims, and she knows hers, and she will fight for that. My business partners are exactly the same. They will fight for my back, and I will for theirs. Why? Because I know what matters most to them. They know what matters most to me. It is in that connection between us. See, here's the thing. We have this illusion. So people are terrified of conflict because they have this idea that conflict will tear us apart. And conflict does often tear people apart. There's no denying that. But here's the thing. Conflict is what bonds us. See, people actually believe that I don't mind conflict. I don't know why they believe that, because it's so not true. I dislike conflict as much as anybody else. I dislike it immensely. I would much rather just get along with everybody. But what I understand versus what I like, what I understand about conflict is conflict creates a bond. It allows me to see people, truly see what matters most to them. It lets me see what it is that they're willing to fight for. It lets me evaluate whether this is somebody I can have a relationship with, business or personal. That's vitally important to my relationships, is to see the depth of the connection between myself and the other person. That can't be done unless I'm willing to conflict with them. Whether that's the person I share my life with as my life partner, whether that's my mother, my father, my children, whether that's my business partners, whoever it is, even my clients. I am willing to fight for what matters most. And with my clients, sometimes that means I've got to be willing to fight for them in the face of them quitting on themselves. I'm willing to do that. And many of you hate conflict. Allison just said, I hate conflict and I try to avoid it. Yeah, many of us hate conflict. I hate conflict as much as anybody else. But here's the thing, if you don't embrace it, if you don't embrace that conflict, you will never know what really matters to you. And if you're not willing to fight for something, you don't know what matters to you. That's my challenge to you. If you're avoiding conflict at all costs, you don't know what matters to you. Because listen, when something matters that much to you, it's worth fighting for. Every single time. I will go into conflict with my wife, don't like it, don't want it, much rather it went easy, but I will go into conflict with her. Why? Because my relationship matters enough for me to fight for it. Not to make her wrong, not to make me right, or vice versa, but because the relationship matters that much. Conflict is powerful bonding, and people who want conflict are shitty partners. They're shitty leaders. And if you're avoiding conflict, you're a shitty leader and you're a shitty partner. So embrace conflict, but don't just fight about anything. Find out what really matters to you. And if you haven't done that work, step up. Step up. You will become more conflictual. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? The only thing you get from sitting on the fence is splinters in your ass. That's it. Get off the fence. Don't be afraid of pushing some people away. I know it's hard. Jesus, I hate rejection too, just like all of you. I want to be loved and appreciated and applauded, and just like all of you. But the truth of the matter is, you've got to find out what's worth fighting for. And if you don't know what's worth fighting for, you just get pushed over. No, you're not shitty, Allison. That's not true. You're just doing a shitty job of being a partner or being a leader if you're not willing to fight for what matters. How can you have conflict without being drained, Anne asked. You can't. Sorry, that's part of it. It's draining. It's not good because I don't want conflict. It kind of sucks the life out of me. But here's the other thing. If you have healthy conflict about what really matters, not to be right, but about what matters, what happens at the other end is you're energized instead of drained. We're often drained in conflict because what we're really fighting for is to be right. But when we're fighting about how to get to what matters, that empowers us, it charges us, it revitalizes us. So get curious about what really matters to you and get even more curious about why you're not willing to fight for it. We're all afraid of rejection. We're all afraid of conflict. It's not fun. I get it. It's not fun at all. I'd much rather not have it. I'd much rather have it be peaceful and easy, just like you. There's no difference. I want it to. But that's not how it actually works. If you want healthy relationships in your life, you have got to know who you are. You've got to know what really matters to you, like in your heart and your soul, and what it is you're willing to fight for. That's what really matters. So get really curious about what matters most to you. What is the hill you're willing to die on? What is the fight you're willing to have? Because actually, that level, that conflict at that level, is the path to bonding. When I have those kinds of conflicts with my wife, I always feel so much closer to her. You know you've had those fights with people you love, and then you really find out something about them you didn't know because of that fight, because they stood up for something you never knew. It's like, wow, I feel so close to you now. I get it. I get you. I never really got you before, but I get this. That's what's worth it. You're worth it. You're worth fighting for. What matters most to you is worth fighting for. So until next time, Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership. Stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about what really matters to you and about what you need to be willing to fight for. I promise you, you are worth it. Now, as always, love to hear from you. Tell me what you got out of this. Share with me what you need to do with it. And please, share it. Try to get onto your page and share it with your friends and your followers if you think it will be valuable and helpful to them. Thanks for all the hearts. Appreciate the hearts and the thumbs ups and the big smiles and all those kind of things. That's really cool. Thank you very much. Those are very cool to see a person put it across. I want to say thank you to everybody. David, a person can actually come to embrace those uncomfortable states and situations. Yes, you can. You're right. So thanks for joining me. Thanks to everybody who's jumped in. Oh, that's cool. Love all the hearts and the thumbs up. That's really cool. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Zachary. Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Sonia. Kim. David. Oh, some of you really jumped in. Nick. Good to see you, Nick Knight. How are you, sir? I know you weren't well. Hope you're feeling much better now. Nellie, good to see you. Hope you could hear me now. Dr. Amit, good to see you. No, you said being nice when needed, being tough when needed. You know, nice is like get over nice. Honestly, get over nice. Compassionate, caring, loving, absolutely. Nice is placating people. Don't bother with it. It doesn't help you. Jeremy, good to see you. Thanks for being on here. Chris, thanks for being on. Milka, Malika, is that? I'm sorry, Malika. Frank, everybody, thanks for joining in. Thanks for being here with me again. Share the video with everybody you think it will help. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing the show with everybody you know. Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership. Till next time, I'm out.